And then we heard the Mac Jones news. And you just never know when it comes to Bill Belichick. The specific kind of rumor that was talked about, that's one you could actually believe. It's like, wait a second, somebody, a player on the team went outside of the organization on Bill Belichick. That's not good. And it's not like Mac Jones has been this Tom Brady type quarterback for Coach Belichick. So, what do you think? What do you think about quarterback? Do they add another quarterback to that room?
Man, I kept refreshing my phone waiting for Lamar Jackson, which gets traded to the New England Patriots.
I can see that, though. Bill Belichick would definitely make a move like that.
That would definitely be a Patriots move.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, man. No one respects Belichick and what he's done over the past 2 decades more than me. I mean, I really do think he changed the game in a lot of ways. But every year that him and Tom Brady spend apart, makes me think that his time is nearly done. And we had these expectations that, hey, New England's going to figure it out. They're going to pull that one move that's going to get them back to the postseason, back to the Super Bowl. And every year it doesn't happen. I think that the idea, it gets solidified that without Brady, this system does not work, or without the elite gamer quarterback, this system will not work. So I would give this organization a lot of respect, a lot of props if they pull the plug on Mac Jones and go out and make an aggressive move for a quarterback in this draft. Now, does Belichick want to start over with a rookie quarterback at his age? There is not really a veteran option. I don't see any trades happening between now and then. It's too late for that. So it's hard to talk about the Patriots draft without bringing that up first, but I just don't know what the options are. I mean, would you hope that someone falls? You fall in love with Will Levis, a local kid.
By the way, is that relationship, does the timeline not add up with Bill O'Brien at Penn State recruiting Will Levis?
When he was at Penn State, I don't think that timeline lines up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was Will Levis came to Penn State.
That would have been a couple of years after.
Yeah.
Okay.
A few years after. Yeah. So that's a good thought. That's good outside the box thinking by you.
Yeah, you never know.
But I'll tell you what, right? As we get closer to the draft and the mock drafts come out, right? There are not going to be 4 quarterbacks taken in the top 10. I would say 1 or 2 of them are going to slide further than people think.
Levis is the guy.
Levis is likely the guy. New England is the team, right, that could trade up from that teens into the 11, 12 area and take that quarterback that falls. And this is where they got Mac Jones, right, in the middle of the first round. They waited for him. I think they're going to have to make more of an aggressive move up because I think the Commanders are going to be in a spot where they might want to go grab a quarterback as well. So there might be competition to trade up for one, but it's hard to ignore that possibility. We could definitely talk about what else they need on that roster, but Mac Jones, Bailey Zapp.
Yeah, they're going to add somebody
in this division, right? You really think in this division those guys are going to beat the quarterbacks?
I'll say this, and I think that Mac Jones still. I think people got too crazy with Mac Jones early on because he was doing what we all expected him to do. Is he was ahead of all the young quarterbacks when it came to being cerebral, being coached correctly, being on a winning team, being efficient. But he wasn't that guy that was going to jump off the page and be like, all right, well, eventually the other guys were going to slowly work their way to start potentially, while Mac Jones was going to get off to a great start or a nice start. But then you don't know, where was he ever going to really reach? How far was he going to reach? I still believe that he has the capability if he's surrounded by a really good team. Mm-hmm. And I will say this, though, about what you were saying with how they looked. I think we should give them definitely this year because Bill O'Brien is back. Yeah. There's a lot more stability within the coaching of this team this year than what last year was a mess. The whole thing about defensive coaches coaching the offense, and it was ridiculous what was going on behind closed. I don't know what they were doing, and it showed on the field. So, but I don't think there's any question that if they don't go after a Lamar Jackson, that they are going to add a quarterback. And maybe they do say, I mean, Hendon Hooker, that's going to be the interesting quarterback because I think the only reason Hendon Hooker is not as expected by most people to be drafted ahead of Will Levis is only because of the injury/age.
Yeah.
That's it. If he was healthy and the same age as say Will Levis, 9 out of 10 scouts would have him rated ahead of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good thought. I mean, I think he's going to be one of the wild cards of draft weekend. He's getting flown into cities, teams that are picking the top 10 right now. So that might even be a guy you have to trade up for. We're saying, is he going to fall to the second round? His range right now is early second round to top 10. And you don't often say that about a quarterback, but
I think he might actually get drafted ahead of Will Levis. It's very possible.
That'd be an interesting bet. I'd like to see what those odds are because you might get a good value bet on that one.
All right. Yeah, let me know if you find it. I'll put some of my money on it. All right. The rest of the offense, they did add James Robinson, which was a nice little under the radar move. They've got the other kids from last year. So I don't really think with some of the other issues they have that they have to be worrying about running back. And as far as the receiver situation, they went out and got Juju Smith, which was a nice move. So they got Thornton from last year. And I don't know. I look overall, though, and I still wonder whether or not they have to add like a big-time guy. And that could be with their first pick.
Yeah, their top 4 receivers last year combined for 119 catches. That's how many Tyreek Hill had last year by himself, right? They lost Jacoby Myers to Las Vegas. They lost Nelson Aguilar to Baltimore. These are 2 top pass catchers the past 3 years, right? So Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, solid players, both free agents next year, right? So past this season, you're really looking at Juju Smith-Schuster and Tyquan Thornton. Right, and they're basically on the opposite sides of the spectrum. You don't know what you have in Tyquan, other than the fact that he ran a fast 40, and Juju is on the back 9 of his career. So, and and he doesn't offer a big play downfield threat. Yeah. So, wide receiver to me is their number 1 need on offense. It's not so pressing that they have to. They're not shopping hungry. But they are sitting in the spot of the first round if they're going to ignore quarterback. That's probably right around where the first receiver is going to go. So if New England walks out of this pre-draft process saying, hey, we really like one of these receivers a lot, right? There's a good shot that he's going to be there with the 14th overall pick. And
who fits best at receiver for New England?
A slot. Jackson Smith-Njigba. I think he'd be he is Julian Edelman to me. That's the name that always pops up to me when I'm watching him play. Not the fastest, but definitely the quickest. Definitely the best route runner, and just a menace after the catch. And in this offense, I think that's what they're going to try to do with Mac Jones. He's not ever going to be a Josh Allen chuck it downfield type. Get the ball out quickly, yards after catch, and that is Smith-Njigba's. That's his game. So that's a spot where I think he's going to go to Tennessee or New England when I'm kind of looking at where I think the first round is going to go.
And then they added Rife at right tackle, so I don't really think they have to do a whole lot on offense unless they want to build with some depth on the offensive line. Gesicki was a nice pickup to go along with Hunter Henry. So you know how they like to use the tight ends there. So on defense, though, I said this when we were talking about New England a couple of months ago, and I know one of the viewers disagreed with me about Christian Barmore because we talked about Barmore kind of just being okay. I mean, it's just an okay player, but they didn't have anybody special. I don't know if that viewer how old he was, but I just remember a lot of top New England defenders on the defensive line that were really special.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, to me, what they're missing. They're missing that special player up front. Judon was a really great move a few years ago. He's been a menace as a pass rusher. Mm-hmm. And Uche's okay as well, but they could probably use a little bit more depth in edge rushing. But New England needs to go back to finding. And unfortunately, that's not going to happen in this year's draft. There's no one like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, the edge, there are a lot of quality edge options in this draft.
Edge options, yes.
That's not what they need. They'll find depth, and I'm sure they will. Yes. They'll use a pick on an edge guy. But inside, I mean, one thing Belichick has done, yes, he's had some monsters inside, but he has also created a lot of value with mid to late round picks along the defensive line or street free agents that other teams did not want. I do believe defensive line needs a body or two, a difference maker or two. It does come down to Barmore. We have seen enough out of him to say, hey, he might be the guy, but we have not seen enough out of him to say that he definitely is the guy. So that's something that just needs to be watched over the next year. Defensively, I'm more worried about their defensive backfield and at corner. Now, I know Jack Jones flashed last year. Jonathan Jones is a solid player, right? But one thing Belichick has always really tried to get is a number one corner, a guy that he really feels like, Gilmore, Revis, right? A lot of these good Belichick teams, they had that number one guy that at least you knew that role was solidified, and then you could scheme around other things. They don't have that on the roster right now. And in this class, again, where I think some of these top corners in this class are going to go, that is a sneaky spot that I think a lot of people are not looking at with the Pats' first pick and just knowing Belichick's history.
Absolutely. I mean, to me, I'm not even sure they have a number two.
Yeah.
Based on how they've had, like you said, those really big time DBs.
Yeah.
They don't really have that because it was usually that number one, like you're talking about, and then they always had that sneaky number two guy that was really good that nobody talked about. And they also had that enforcer guy at safety. Now, Duggar's done a nice job. He's gotten better. He's found a role. But, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, they need to add. Now, depth-wise, I think they're okay, but they don't have the premium guy that you're talking about.
I mean, even consider safety, right? They lose McCourty to retirement, right? And I really think that he was like a glue of that secondary. And physically, yeah, he could be replaced. But alignment-wise, like who is going into that role? Everyone is quick to say Adrian Phillips, but when you talk about where these guys played, all right, Phillips, he aligned in the box, kind of like a dime linebacker type. Every now and then you'd see him drop back into a free safety role. McCourty was almost always the guy that was on the back end. Duggar is your wild card, right? Your joker. He's all over the place. Are you really going to put Phillips in that McCourty role, a role that he has not been playing his entire career? So if you want to keep Phillips in the role that he's been in the past few years, who is playing that spot when McCourty was? Is it Jalen Mills? Do you really trust that? Jabril Peppers? No, right? So that's a spot. I just think the entire defensive backfield, you could spend – out of their first four picks, you could use 2 or 3 of them back there, and I think it would work out.
I don't know when he's going to get drafted, and I know you really like him a lot. But in our last mock draft, I think either the player that you took, which was Smith-Njigba, or the player I took right before you, Branch.
Yeah, Branch is definitely a Belichick guy.
Yes. So he would love to get Branch on that team.
Yeah, I mean, Branch is what I think Adrian Phillips is, but Branch is so good that you can move him around. Phillips won't be there that much longer anyway. You're not going to make any long-term decisions based on him. There are a few of these versatile safeties. It's not a strong safety group, but there's a couple. The guys at the top, Brian Branch and Jartavius Martin from Illinois, are like those nickel safety types. Cornerback experience, can also play on the back end as free safety. Those are Bill Belichick type defensive backs. So my money is on them using their number one pick on a D-back unless they want to get aggressive at quarterback.
Yeah, so quarterback, but slot wide receiver. And again, if Smith-Njigba is available, it probably would be surprised if he doesn't go to New England.
I would be if he's there.
And we've talked about this before, just to remind everybody, and I know the Patriot fans don't have to be reminded, but Bill Belichick, as long as he's been there, has had a very hard time drafting wide receivers.
He has.
I mean, he's had a lot of misses, a lot. And that is something to keep in mind. But I think if Smith-Njigba was available, that's not going to, I have a hard time drafting a receiver. No, I got to imagine he'd pull the plug and go that route. So, yeah, I think we're in agreement based on this draft. Slot wide receiver, quarterback, maybe if they go that route, and definitely the defensive backfield.